Hi, do you want to add vellum to your handmade cards and scrapbooking projects but find it too challenging? In this video, I'm going to show you how to use vellum successfully in your paper crafting. This is Jan's Stampin'Cafe, and I'm Jan. Please click the subscribe button below and give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. In this video, I'll be focusing on how to design your project with vellum, stamping on vellum, and adhesives I like on vellum. I'll also show you some embossing folders and heat embossing samples. My projects will be cards, however, the same applications can be made on a scrapbook page. There are a few things to know about vellum before we start. Vellum is cellulose. It's not fiber like other papers and cardstocks. It's smooth and it's non-porous. And of course, it's delicate. It comes in a translucent form and opaque. Today, we're going to be dealing with the translucent vellum. I'll be using a 40-pound weight. It comes in much lighter weights as well. It's as thin as what you remember using as tracing paper as a kid. Vellum can be used in a printer, and although it's tricky to do, it can be done. It can go through laser printers or inkjet printers. But I'm going to leave that research to you because your vellum may be different than mine, and your printer will be different for sure. Please have extra vellum around to make your samples and give it a few test runs. The next thing you want to remember about vellum is to store it in a cool, dry, flat container. You can see mine is still nice and flat, but even as I hold it, the warmth of my body is starting to curl it. I can't hold it flat, so of course as my hand curves, it begins to curve. So heat, moisture, and age will cause it to curl. So you want to be sure that your vellum is stored properly to get best results. Let's start with some design ideas. Vellum makes a great backdrop to die cuts, like I have in this card here. Just a plain piece of cardstock laid over some print paper, and it makes a great backdrop. Another thing that you can do is to create a focal point with your vellum. This one does call attention to the focal point, but here we can actually cause the eye to move to our focal point. We'll have a beautiful print designer paper here, and we'll lay a piece of vellum on it and put a focal point, a beautiful butterfly on there. The vellum makes a great backdrop and can be used to draw the eye across the page. Another sample would be to use a clean and simple design, such as this, where we just really want to show off the paper. We'll die cut a piece of vellum and put a word die cut on it. And that just emphasizes that die cut word. But you can also fussy cut your own word shadow. Let me show you how. I've die cut this out of cardstock, just one layer of plain cardstock. And I'm not going to take the die that I used to cut it and lay it on my vellum so that you can read the word. And you will just place it down, and then I'll take a pencil and I'll very loosely trace around this die. So I follow the edge here, but when I come around to here, I am not going to divert up into this area. That's going to be way too much detail for what I'm after. I just want to come across and maybe make some wavy lines under these letters. And again, we'll skip across to the end of the K, up to the top, and across the word. So now I have this shape. And if we lay our pre-cut die on it, or die cut on it, you can see that it fits in there quite nicely. We do need a little more room, so we'll create that as we cut it out. So we'll just cut loosely outside the pencil line, following some of these curves. And you know, when you fussy cut, you always turn your paper, not your scissors. So continue holding your scissors in the same place. And look at that. I didn't even go into that one area that I drew. So you can make changes on the fly here. And we'll just round that off a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to lay that on some dark cardstock so you get a better view of it. Now let's lay this die cut word down again. Look how much better that is now. So now all we have to do is erase our pencil line. And I have this handy dandy tool. I love it. It's like holding a pencil. It's a great little tool. I found it on Amazon. It just spins. It does all the work. Okay, so our pencil line is erased, and now we can adhere our die cut word, and it has its own shaped shadow. If you're not brave enough to do your own fussy cutting, then we can take this same die, and with the same cardstock die cut, I'm going to use this piece of paper so things will show up again. Same die cut but cardstock, and now I will cut the die out again, out of vellum. And then we'll put these two together and offset them just enough to highlight that word. So there is an option for highlighting your die cuts. Stamping on vellum has also been a challenge. I've had the best success stamping with these three inks: Stampin'Cafe Amalgam, StazOn, and Memento Black. I have a rubber stamp and a photopolymer stamp here, and we'll stamp all of these. I like the Memento Tuxedo Black. It gives me a nice impression, and you can see it on this sample here. The only drawback is it takes 24 hours to dry on this porous surface. Remember, this is a porous surface. The ink is not going to get absorbed into this paper like it would normal copy paper or cardstock. My next choice would be StazOn. Now, this is a good ink, and it's great for if you want to apply watercolors or alcohol markers to a paper. We're not doing that today. So let's do a sample of these. We'll start with the Memento Tuxedo Black. I'm using a rubber stamp, inking up. I have a nice coverage on my stamp. Okay. And that's a fairly thick design, you can see, so there will be quite a bit of ink sitting there. Now remember, this one takes about 24 hours to dry. Next, we'll use the photopolymer stamp in the Memento. I'm getting nice coverage on my stamp, and I will stamp it down. And remember, when you're stamping on this non-porous surface, your stamps may slide. So Stamparatus or some other stamp positioning tool may be in your best interest. Now, we have just stamped these, and I will show you, it will smear, you see? So you need to give that 24 hours to dry. Now, I have trouble keeping my StazOn pad juicy, so I have re-inked this right before we started so that I'd have plenty of ink. Now, one of the things that I don't care for about StazOn is that it always feels a titch sticky to me for some reason. So I have my ink or my stamp covered well. Did you hear that? It's a little sticky. And now we'll use the rubber stamp. Okay. And we'll set those aside with the ink pad. I've just cleaned these, and I just cleaned them in my normal stamp cleaner. StazOn does not clean off very well without the proper cleaner. So I need to use my StazOn cleaner, and that will get those stamps all nice and clean again. The one thing that I have been told, now I have never evaluated this for myself, but I have been told that the StazOn cleaner is not as friendly to the photopolymer stamps. With rubber, there is no problem. You see, I still have a small amount there, so we'll clean that off and dry it. Now we will try the Stampin'Cafe. All right, we'll put both of these on one. I have nice coverage. And now I think I'll re-ink that again. It seems to be, there we go, much better. All right, so that's both a photopolymer and a rubber stamp with each ink on vellum. Now, let's go back to our first stamped images. These were with the Memento. and we'll check them again to see if they've dried. Still a little smeary. Both. Now this had thinner lines on it, and this has a thicker line in the design, so of course there's more ink here and it will take longer to dry. Now let's check out our StazOn. It's been sitting for a couple of minutes. Look at that. No streaking, no smudging at all. And this one has the thicker line in the design, so it should take a little bit longer to dry, but look, totally dry. I have not sped up the video for you, so this is all in real time. And now here's the Gina K amalgam. This I can see has a little bit of shininess left on it, which is telling me it's still a little bit wet, probably down here at the bottom of the L. So I'm going to run my finger across the entire word. And see, it is a little streaky, but if we give that a few more minutes to dry, it'll be as nice as the StazOn. If you're in a hurry, use the StazOn. It will not smudge nearly, or it will dry much faster than the Gina K or the Memento. I just happen to prefer the Gina K product. Another challenge when working with vellum is which adhesive to use. Where do I hide it? I found that adhesive sheets, double-sided tape, and glue dots are the most effective adhesives for my projects. First of all, I want to show you this sample that I've done of all of the adhesives. I'm going to peel off my release tape from this double-sided tape. Oh, of course. Here we go. All right, here is a sample of a tape runner, a dot of my Monotombo glue, adhesive sheet product, double-sided tape, and I forgot my glue dot on the end there. I'll put those in the light for you to see a little bit better. All right, now this is the front side. This is the side where I applied the products. Now if I turn them over and put something dark underneath here, you can see that all these products do show through. You can see my glue dot, tape runner, there's my Tombow dot, my adhesive sheet, and the double stick tape. There is no product that is not going to show on vellum. So my advice is, hide it in plain sight. Let it show when you have to. So I have a few examples for you in doing this. First, let's start with an adhesive sheet. Here's a sample of one. Adhesive sheets are adhesive that come on these sheets of paper, and what you'll do is peel off the backing and apply your product or your cardstock or your vellum to it. This side is still sticky, so what I'm going to do is replace this so I don't have a mess. And I can see my product through here, so I'm going to simply take a scissor and cut away the excess. So now I have removed this protective sheet from the one side of the adhesive. Now what I'm going to do is die cut this, and I'll be right back. So I have die cut through the adhesive, the vellum, and the backing paper. So this is my vellum side, and this is my backing paper. So what I'm going to do is peel off the backing paper and adhere my piece of vellum to this other piece of cardstock right here. This whole piece is totally coated with the adhesive. I don't think you can see it very well, but we'll give it a shot. There you go. A little bit of shine, you can see the adhesive. So I'm going to lay this down on my cardstock here. And if you look at it, you cannot see the adhesive at all. It's all blending in because it's totally covering that piece of vellum. Well, I'm going to take my finger and rub it in, kind of burnish it on. And you see that it does change color a little bit. Now if I take a bone folder and I press down with the point, you can see lines. So that means that there's still some air underneath there. So what I'm going to do is smooth it down even more until all those little white areas disappear. So I'm just burnishing and burnishing. Now if we didn't have this margin out here to tell the difference between the adhesive and the normal cardstock, you would never know that that had adhesive underneath it. You can't see the edges of where the adhesive has been applied and where it stops, because it doesn't stop. It goes all the way out to the edge. So that is one wonderful way of applying adhesive to your vellum. Totally cover it so that it doesn't show. Another way that you can achieve this same effect is to use a Xyron machine. If you have a Xyron sticker maker machine, you can slip your die cut or your piece of vellum through there and it will be totally covered just like the adhesive sheet did. The next sample I want to show you is with a glue dot. Now we're going to hide this in plain sight, I said, right? So we want to add some things to the front of this card. It's a little bit plain, and I do want to put some glue dot down here. Now what I have done so far is I've only put adhesive under this die cut. You can see that I can get all the way around here with my tool. That's a perfectly good way to adhere your card together. And there's no reason why you couldn't leave it finished like this with these edges loose. Nobody else is going to sit there and lift that up. But if you like to have your projects totally put together from edge to edge, I'm going to tell you to take a glue dot. It's a perfectly round circle, and we are going to let it show in plain sight. Can you see that in the corner? It's right there. Now, I don't mind seeing a circle like that. Let's add another one, just to make sure that our paper is not going to go anywhere. Oh dear, I didn't get it down very well. It's not as round as I would like it to be. So in this case, I'm going to take sequins and I'm going to lay those over the top of my glue dot. I'll just take another glue dot to put on the front. Put it right here. I'm using my take your pick tool to pick up my sequins and lay them right over the glue dot. I need another glue dot here I forgot to put down, right? So here's one. And I'll put my other sequin down. And now I have these cute little shells too. Let's put one of those on. These two glue dots are functioning. They're holding my vellum down. Now I'm going to add glue dot down here and just add my decoration. And I can continue adding sequins until I have the card looking like I want. And we could string a few down here to look more like the bubbles in the water. So that is another sample of hiding your glue dots in plain sight. The next method of hiding your adhesive in plain sight is the double stick tape. I have prepared a little embellishment here that I want to put on my card. I've used 1/8 inch double stick tape. It just tears right off. I don't have to even use scissors. And I've gone around the edge of my embellishment with this, and you can see as I peel off the backing paper where that adhesive is. And I purposely kept everything on the edge of the paper because I knew that this is going to look like glass, and I wanted it to just be at the edges. And there, I can see that adhesive, no problem. But because this is a glass, a mug, if you will, it is just calling attention to the thickness of the glass. Another method of leaving your adhesive in plain sight would be to just fold it over your card. And in this sample, what I've done is I prepared a card base, and I have a beautiful print vellum here. Now with this vellum, you could put glue dots right behind every flower if you wanted to, and that would secure your vellum to the card body. But what I'm choosing to do today is that I have scored it here along this edge, and I'm going to fold it. And I'm going to use a tape runner this time. This is our new Stampin' Up's new Stampin' Seal Plus. And I like this. It's nice and strong. I did a whole video about it. And when you apply it, you lift off and there's no stringiness. And the reason is because it has little lines in it so that when you disconnect from the paper, it will lift off. And so what I'm going to do now is just wrap this around my card front. And when I press it down, the tape runner barely shows underneath there. And now I have this beautiful layer on the front of my card. And I can just go ahead and add my sentiment. Now, how easy was that? And your adhesive is not showing at all. This fold over the back is even a decorative effect. Another way to disguise your adhesive is don't use adhesive. So what I've done is I've tied my pieces together with a piece of twine. So every piece is loose and it dangles on my tag. And you can do the same thing with a card. And then you could also take a piece and put it on the outside, and we can cover our design and put it inside a string that I already have applied here. And it's all adhered because my string is on already. Isn't that beautiful? Now let's take this one step further. We're going to heat emboss this. I'm going to use Versamark ink, use my embossing buddy, my powder tool that will keep any of the embossing powder from being stuck to the wrong area before I heat the powder. I will ink this stamp. And you notice that I'm using the Stamparatus this time because I don't want anything to move. Now before you run your heat tool on the vellum, you want to make sure that it's really hot. So I'm going to let it run for a couple minutes and then I will bring it to the paper. You want to make sure that you don't overheat your vellum when you're melting the powder. If you overheat it, it will waffle for sure. We've done a very good job of this today. So now I'm just going to slide this back through the string. And here I have a new layer to my card. Another fun technique with vellum is to use it as your card base. So I have a 4 1/4 by 11 piece of vellum here. I wanted to put my cute little whale on the front, and we need a little adhesive. Okay, so now let's look on the inside, and you can see all of my adhesive here. So clearly whatever we do on one side of the paper, we have to do something on the other side as well that will cover that. So what I'm going to put on the inside is this piece of cardstock, and this will cover my adhesive, plus it's also going to give me a shadow or frame, if you will, on the outside. And I want to center this piece over this piece on the inside of my card. So I'm going to lay the sticky side up, and I'm going to position my die cut pieces so that will be the front of my card so far. All right, on the inside, I won't be wanting to write on this vellum, so I need to give myself a place to sign the card. So that means that I need to move my verse, and I'm going to move my verse up to this position. And now I need a place to sign the card. I'm going to put the right side down on this die cut, my sticky side is up, and then I will close my card on this. And now my piece is directly in line with my first die cut piece. So again, I'm in the same position I was before. My glue is showing through on the back of the card, so I want to cover that up. So I will take another die cut piece that is just a smidgen bigger. It will give me just a little bit of an outline, and I can just center that, and I have just a slight outline around this die cut where I can sign. I have my verse on the top of the card, and I have my shark on the outside. So now I think it's a little bit plain, so I want to add a little bit more interest, but I want that interest to carry through. So what I'm going to do is sandwich my vellum between a piece of fussy cut designer paper and a piece of cardstock. So I will attach my designer paper first. and this was pre-cut to 4 1/4 inches wide, and then I just fussy cut with my scissors around the shapes that were here. And now I'll bring in my cardstock piece that I fussy cut at the same time, and we'll just lay this on the back. And you see I'm covering up the other print that I don't want to show, plus my glue. So I'll just lay that down there. Whoop, try it again. There we go. And there we have it. What a quick and easy card. I have my print showing through from the inside. I have my cute little shark, and I have my verse, "Well done," and a place to sign. So how fun is that? And it will stand up. The last thing that I wanted to show you with Vellum is using it in an embossing folder. I have tried it in a couple different embossing folders, and so I will show you what I have found. This is a 3-dimensional embossing folder. They're called 3D folders, and it's much thicker this way, and it's also more the 6x6 size design. It's very intricate if you see all of the design on here, and because it's a 3D folder, these ridges push the paper much deeper when it is passed through the die cut machine. It's going to push the paper way deeper into the other creases of the folder. So I just used my normal embossing technique, and this is what I got. This piece is beautiful. I mean, it's got all the detail on it of the folder, and it waffled a little bit, but normal cardstock would do that as well. The thing that I've noticed is that because the design is pressing so much further, the paper just cannot take it. So sometimes you'll have these little tears in your vellum, and there's really no way to avoid that when you're using these 3D folders. You don't want to spritz your vellum because that will make it waffle for sure. So I decided, well, I'll try a different sandwich, and maybe if I don't have as much pressure in the die cut machine, that it will still work. But as you can see, I didn't get as complete of a embossing on my piece of vellum. So I would say, in using a 3D embossing folder, that you should be prepared, have a few extra pieces ready, and don't expect it to be perfect the first time. And if it is, then yay, you can put it on your card. I would recommend, however, these smaller embossing folders. They're smaller in thickness and in dimension here. It has a plainer design. It's a little simpler design, not nearly as intricate as the other folder I just showed you. And I passed this through with my normal embossing sandwich on my die cut machine, and I got a really nice design. I could turn that and use either side. So the smaller embossing folders work just fine. The 3D embossing folders press your paper quite a bit. Wow, we have covered a lot of information in this video, and I thank you for hanging in there to the end. I'll be sharing as many links as I can in the description box below. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or email me. My email will be below as well. I'd appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button in the corner, and thanks for watching. I'll be back again soon with another tutorial.